Good morning, Metronui! Welcome back to another episode of the Barraki Talk Show. We're your hosts, the Mulek brothers,
Jacob,
Samuel,
Thomas, and we're glad you're joining us today as we talk our way through the weird and wondrous world of Bionicle. But first, coming up on the Barraki Talk Show. Oh, it's just strange. Anything at any time could be protodermis. You wake up in your mom's protodermis. Like, not again.
to do the random.
So Matoran, I'm so done with life. Turns his head into a pickle.
Turns his head into
I'm a pickle Takua. I'm a pickle. I'm pickle Jowler.
Turns his head into a Gadunka.
But a real size Gadunka, so it's like microscopic.
Like, I know what it is and does, but I don't know what it is and what it can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All that and more coming up on the Barraki Talk Show. Protodermis is a unique Bionicle concept that is massively underexplored, but insanely interesting to talk and think about. It's revealed in the Markjuly saga that all beings and elements in the domed universe are made up of a synthetic material called protodermis. So from the trees to the water to the toa, all of it, protodermis. But what is protodermis exactly, and what does it do? Well, let's find out together on this episode of the Barraki Talk Show. So, Samuel and Jacob, I suppose, what do you guys know about protodermis coming into it?
I know that protodermis, a lot of stuff in the Bionicle universe is made up of protodermis. Like, for what we know at this point, is made up of protodermis, but I don't know to what extent. So, I just know that it's like the fundamental building block, no pun intended. Or pun intended.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Anyway, fundamental building block of the Bionicle universe. Like, there's a lot that they talk about being made of protodermis, and like the masks are made of protodermis, stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff where you hear about it and what I know about it.
Can we talk about Metronui now?
Yes, we've done the Markjuly episodes.
Yes! Okay, so protodermis is...
Wrong.
Protodermis was...
But it feels so right.
Correct.
Okay, so protodermis, to the best of my understanding, is sort of like imitation elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it acts in every, like, useful way as whatever element it is intending to be. So, like, liquid protodermis is water. Molten protodermis is lava. Solid protodermis is rock, or, you know, earth or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think, to the best of my understanding, that is basically what protodermis is. And Toa can manipulate protodermis just like they could regular elements, although not to as, like, strong or powerful of an extent. Is that correct?
That's partially correct. So protodermis is a purely synthetic atomic element, is how it's described. It is called an atomic element, even though I do not think Greg Farshty has the slightest clue what an atomic element actually is, because he seems to get confused with what, like, a molecule is. So it can imitate pretty much anything. In the early years of when protodermis is revealed to make up everything, it is used almost as shorthand for, like, matter, like how we use matter in real life. But it gets complicated really fast because it's not actually matter. It has unique properties. So since it is synthetically created, it is actually completely unrelated to energized protodermis. So this is also confusing because when the Toa Mata are dumped into energized protodermis to become the Toa Nuva, at that time, energized protodermis was just called protodermis. There was no distinction.
Nice.
So it was retconned to be energized protodermis, and is retconned to not be even remotely related to protodermis.
I wonder if protodermis is named after energized protodermis, because we can assume that it was probably first, and so therefore maybe protodermis is more of like an homage, you know, to this, like, powerful substance. Sort of like how they named the island Matanui after the Great Spirit Matanui.
Protodermis nui. They should have called it. So, strange thing about protodermis is when it is created, it also makes a byproduct called antidermis.
Okay.
And this is actually, it will be discussed in depth in Chronicler's Corner because there are a lot of complicated and spoiler things about it. But suffice it to say, this is actually what makes up the essence of Makuta. So when you create matter, you also create Makuta, which is such a bizarre thing. So it's like, do you want to create matter and also evil? That's your only option. There's no alternative.
Yeah.
It's like matter comes with evil. So the other thing relating to your point about Toa can manipulate it, since it is a element that mimics everything, it mimics it essentially perfectly, which means that Toa who have elemental control can manipulate protodermis when it is imitating their element.
Interesting.
Yeah, so liquid protodermis can be manipulated by a Toa of water as if it was just water because it imitates it so well. But if it freezes, a Toa of water can no longer do it because now it's imitating ice. So only a Toa of ice can manipulate it, which is very strange. Moving on, there's one super interesting quirk of protodermis, and that is because it is matter, it comes in the different states just as normal matter does, right? So because of this, we'll be going over solid protodermis, which is just like solid matter in our terminology first, because I think it is the most expansive and the most based. First up, try to guess what all the different types of solid protodermis there are. And I mean solid in the sense of like physical state of being, like it is a stable molecular structure.
Like general, kind of like how we would consider a solid.
Yeah.
Like you're saying like dirt or
Yeah, stuff
ice
like that.
or
Ice,
I think ice has to
Metal.
be on there.
rock,
What about stone?
rock and stone. We're gonna start a Deep Rock Galactic podcast next.
Let's see, what else is there? Like, are there more general categories too? Or like, is it pretty general or does it get more specific? Like, is wood one?
So it does get more specific. and-
Crystal.
Yes, crystal is actually a major subtype.
Huh.
Actually, so like
Knowledge
there's even subtypes of like metallic protodermis. So like they have the basic ones that act like earth and stone. This is what makes up most of the stuff they dig through to make the archives. Right?
Yeah.
It's just dirt. That's all it is. But in a ton of media, especially on Matanui, they reference mining for protodermis, right? So it's like, what is this protodermis they're mining for? And it's a specific type of solid protodermis that is more like, it's like semi-gelatinous and very easy to manipulate and press into shapes. So on Matanui, they mine for this type of protodermis because it can be easily made into different types of tools. So I'm like, that's actually interesting. And they reference like using sluices or whatever to like shape it and mold it, mine it. So I'm like, what a weird form of solid protodermis, just be in the middle of dirt, I guess.
Yeah.
And when a group of Toa combine their power, the protodermis created is stone-like and semi-translucent, which I believe makes it a more pure form of protodermis. So I think that's what you were referencing. That's what they sealed the Balrog away with.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so like when they combine their Toa powers, since Toa are made of protodermis, their elements create a protodermic structure.
So wait, Toa are made of protodermis,
Correct.
but Matoran are not.
All beings, essentially, in the Matoran universe are made of protodermis, because protodermis can also be organic, which is heckin' weird. Because it can be a solid, a liquid, a gas, and organic. So all of the mechanical parts of a Toa are made up of protodermis. All of the organic parts are made up of organic protodermis. So this is just protodermis imitating muscle sinew.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So is like something like the Morbizak protodermis?
I would assume so.
Yeah, I would also assume so.
So it's weird because since protodermis has some sort of, I wouldn't even say intelligence because there are other forms of protodermis that have literal intelligence, right? It has some form of programmable mimicry and like adaptation. When it becomes an organic structure that it's imitating, it is actually stronger and than like a normal flesh and blood muscle would be, and it only needs energy, which is why Matoran can just eat straight energy, because that's what the organic protodermis uses to function like a normal organic would. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's a bit weird.
Yes. And it gets into like the weird mechanics of protodermis that are just...
What gets into the weird mechanics of protodermis?
Just understanding kind of how it functions, and will we get into that later? Like,
yeah, we can get into that later in a specific section because I have a theory.
Yeah, the science theory behind it is very strange.
Yeah.
Because, well, we'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into. Stay tuned. So back to solid protodermis, which we were on, which organic counts as a solid, but it's a subtype, and I put it in its own section because it's heckin' weird. There's frozen protodermis, obviously. There's crystalline protodermis, which you pointed out. So this includes light stones, heat stones, memory crystals, knowledge tower stones, and the shadowed one actually has a staff that creates crystallized protodermis that is none of those other 4 types of crystallized protodermis. So it is a strangely fleshed out subtype of protodermis.
What are the knowledge towers made out of one of those?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, knowledge tower stones, as well as knowledge crystals.
So just really quickly, thinking about the organic protodermis, since you said it's a solid. So that's when I was asking like about wood or like how specific it gets. All of that gets grouped together under organic, right? Anything that we would consider living or once living is in the organic category, just like it would be in our actual classification of Earth.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I didn't know like
all the rahi,
what exactly we were looking for.
Yeah, all the rahi, all the toa, all the Matoran organic protodermis with pure metallic parts that are,
cool, as well as plants and whatever else.
Correct. Yeah. So anything inside the Don universe that looks organic, protodermis.
Cool.
Essentially. Metallic protodermis is the other major subtype of solid protodermis. And this is protodermis that obviously imitates metals. It can imitate metals that have a correlation with real life and extraordinary metals that don't exist in real life. Interesting fact, it is most often created from cooling molten protodermis, which is why I think molten protodermis is so sought after, because you can form it into separate types of metallic protodermis depending on what you're trying to go for.
Okay.
Right. Because they go to a lot of effort to make molten protodermis because it's made from refined liquid protodermis, which is then taken and turned into molten protodermis, which is then taken and turned into metallic protodermis. So you're like, obviously, it must be worth it for some sort, right?
Right. So, a couple things. So on Matanui, the lava that comes out of Mount Mangai is protodermis, right?
Yes, it is molten
It's
protodermis,
molten protodermis
from Tametru.
Right. So that would explain why they're constantly like using that for tools.
Correct.
Because it would be easier to shape and mold.
Correct. And protodermis seems to just be, like the organic was, it seems to just be stronger than equivalent materials in the natural world.
Right. And then, so the other thing too, and this kind of goes back to the crystalline one, in Onukoro, the light stones are a type of protodermis, right?
They're crystalline.
They're crystalline protodermis. So where do the light stones come from?
So you're just asking about it in the context of Matanui, like where
it's specifically
like if they got molten protodermis from Metro Nui and there were light stones in Metro Nui, how did the light stones get to Matanui? Is that what you're asking?
It wasn't necessarily in connection with the molten protodermis. I just was remembering that old detail.
I would guess either A, geomorphic processes just create them by the laws of how protodermis interacts with heat and pressure, or B, Matanui's like, my Matoran need light. I'm just going to make a bunch of light stones and make a mine for it.
Okay.
He can't make it too easy
Yeah,
for
no,
them.
make them work. That's what they're made for.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Matanui is some sort of combination of like true elements and then also
Matanui, the
protodermis.
island.
Yes, Matanui,
yeah,
the
the
island.
island.
For
The island.
clarity.
Yes, it is.
I have a quick side note here, just thinking about the molten protodermis coming out of coming out of Mangai. So we know that formed. They used the molten protodermis to form Takoro, right?
Uh-huh.
Like
They use the lava to form Takoro.
they use the lava to form Takoro, which I think is cooler because I don't know if they explicitly state this, but now I can see it kind of in my head that it's like, oh, Takoro is less of like a hardened magma structure and it's more of a metal, like metallic structure.
I mean, it's not
Like,
actually though, because apparently when they cool that molten protodermis, it becomes like rock-like protodermis.
okay, so it is like rock.
It is rock.
Okay, that's weird.
I get to it more in the theory section, but I think molten protodermis is like the most versatile type of protodermis, so it can become almost anything with the certain influences.
Okay, so I was just wondering, like, do you think all of Takoro was actually just that stone-like?
There are probably varying degrees
Protodermis?
of hardness, but
Okay.
yeah, probably mostly
So
stone.
it wasn't. They probably didn't refine it or turn it into some sort of metal for the actual like village of
Yeah,
Takoro
they
itself.
just did that for tools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, now I have not as cool of an
I know that would
image
have been
anymore.
sick though.
That would have been really sick.
Continuing on though, a quick note about Toe of Iron, because they do exist. They can control any type of metallic protodermis, but they can't transmute it between types. So they
Huh.
couldn't like turn proto-iron into proto-steel or vice versa, but they could manipulate both equally.
That'd be OP.
That would be so busted.
I bet Hafu could.
Just transmute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hafu the alchemist. Famous. He's known as an alchemist, you know,
Yeah.
by no one.
Hafu is the best. I don't know what to tell you.
By his drinking buddies.
We have to keep bringing up Hafu because after this, he never is mentioned again.
Yeah.
We have to keep
I mean,
his
we've already
spirit
hit the part
alive,
where he's not mentioned again.
I know,
Jacob.
it's
he hasn't been
tragic.
mentioned for like 3 episodes.
It's tragic.
if not more.
Yeah. No, yeah, it'd be like 5. I don't know.
I will never
However many
forgive
episodes.
Greg for forgetting about Hafu.
Greg didn't forget. He let him exit with grace.
Sure.
He either lives along, or what is it? He either dies a hero
Or
or
lives long enough to
be
become an Akmu.
Yeah. See, so it's a good thing that Hafu left when he did.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So going on the basic metallic protodermis, there's like basic iron. This is called proto-iron. Then there's specialized varieties of metallic protodermis. One of them is really hard and referenced as a rare material, though it's not the hardest type of protodermis. And this is what was made for the Toahaga armor.
Okay.
Then the toughest is called proto-steel, and Greg Farshty himself said it's more like adamantium than anything we have in the real world. So it's like extraordinarily tough and super sought after, but by far the hardest type of proto-metallic to create. And it can only be destroyed in a few very specific ways. First being with other proto-steel, right? Powerful disintegration effects, not weak ones. So it has to be a powerful disintegration effect to destroy proto-steel. Hyper-concentrated lasers like Takanuva can shoot out. And strangely, Levoc acid is noted as one of the things that can destroy proto-steel. So I'm like, this stuff is just crazy. Like, what can't Levoc acid do?
Was Levoc the one that got punted to the moon?
That was Levoc.
That Levoc call, yeah. Just the regular Levoc.
Yeah, just your normal, one of the
thousands
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Levoc out there just
It's like I have equipped my army with proto-steel armor. It's like I have 3 boron. And I got 1 million more on the way. I just thought that was funny.
I've always felt like Levoc were kind of overpowered compared to the others.
I remember reading the Codex Guide to the Universe, and it's like Tanak. With their fire shields, they can melt anything. And it's like Levoc. With their acid shields, they can melt anything. I'm like, so which one's more? And apparently Levoc Call can just melt more stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, sure, bro. So that's all the metallic types of protodermis.
Okay.
Now we move on to liquid protodermis. Ooh. So any thoughts about liquid proto?
I I mean, we talked about liquid protodermis actually quite a bit in the Metronui episode, because we were talking about like how Ga-Metru is just, they thrive on liquid protodermis. They're always using it for various purposes, but it is very critical in the Bionicle world. I don't know beyond kind of what we discussed with Metronui why it's important.
Yeah, so from what I can tell, raw liquid protodermis, the stuff they get out of the ocean all around Metronui, acts just like normal ocean water, right? Where there's tons of impurities, random junk and stuff inside of there, and it can corrode stuff like how sea salt corrodes metal and whatever. Pure or purified liquid protodermis is clear and slightly bluish. That has to be, and it's only obtained by running raw liquid protodermis through specialized refiners. And a toe of water can actually control this just fine, just like any other types of liquid protodermis. And it seems to function like how we use distilled water. So it's used in a lot of industrial capacities.
Okay.
Like inside the chutes. The chutes are purified liquid protodermis inside a magnetic sheath. Because it's stated if it was normal liquid protodermis, it would like start corroding the structure.
That makes sense
I'm like,
in a way.
Yeah, I'm like, that would also explain why they need so heckin' much of it on Metronui, because the chutes go everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's a cool use of it. And it's also what they use to make Hanoka discs and molten protodermis. So has a lot of uses.
Just really quickly, this is going to be a box or, but all of the Toa of water are referred to as Toa of water. But Golly would have been the first, like on Matanui, the water would have been actual water, right? But Nokama is also called the Toa of water, and there would have been no actual water in Metronui.
I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong because I haven't read the books in a while. I know you have, Thomas. But I'm pretty sure typically the like characters in the book and in the comics and stuff refer to the elements by the names that we would give the elements: water, earth, etc. And I believe the narrative refers to it as whatever protodermis. Is that correct?
It's kind of confusing because sometimes they know it's actual water, sometimes they know it's protodermis. Like when they're mining on Matanui and they find chunks of protodermis, they call that protodermis and they know it's protodermis, but I'm not sure if they think protodermis is a atomic element that can mimic stuff, or if they think it's just a specific kind of solid, like material.
Yeah, like almost like a metal. Like we would come across a new metal and be like, cool.
Yeah. Inside the domed universe, they don't even know what a true element is because they don't exist.
Right, but that's what I'm asking. So like inside the domed universe, they usually refer to whatever element by what we would call it, right? Like they call it water, or they call it earth, or they call it stone, or whatever, right?
Correct.
They don't, I think the narrative will sometimes refer to it as liquid protodermis or molten protodermis or whatever, if I remember correctly from a long time ago when I read the books.
They use it pretty interchangeably.
Even the characters do?
The characters don't, they just call it... No, the characters use it pretty much all the time, because they'll refer to like molten protodermis and liquid protodermis, right? But then they'll also say when you're digging through solid protodermis that's earth-like, they'll say, oh, he's digging through the earth, or he's making a tunnel through the stone. They don't call it stone-like protodermis, even though it is explicitly protodermis.
So I'm trying to understand this all. So when they refer to it as protodermis, is that the Toamata referring to it, or Toamata/Nuba referring to it as protodermis, or do they refer to it as protodermis in the Metronui comics or books as well? Because like that's where I would get confused by it, because it's like I could understand if the Toametru called each by their own element, because to them they would know differently, right? Like liquid protodermis in effect is water. So why would you ever call it something else? You could just call it water, right? And it's like the Toamata would have that added benefit of knowing that that's not water, right? Like, we've seen real water. That's not it. So I wouldn't blame the Metru for using that naming convention. It's just weird that the Toa who are more enlightened, let's say, still use that convention.
I guess what I say, they seem to call it protodermis when it's specifically in a state of matter that can be manipulated into a different type of protodermis. So they call it raw liquid protodermis because they know it can be refined into purified liquid protodermis, which can be turned into molten protodermis, which can be turned into metallic protodermis like protosteel. They call all of those protodermis, but they don't call like earth or stone protodermis because they don't use that to transform into different types.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
same with water.
Yeah, that's where I guess this distinction would be.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So that does bring us into molten protodermis proper, and it's made when solid or pure liquid protodermis has been heated. They seem to prefer massively purified liquid protodermis, so I'm guessing it produces higher quality molten protodermis. It has the properties of lava, right? And it can't be created or controlled by a toe of iron because it's not metallic protodermis yet. But it can be created by a toe of fire and a toe of stone working together. Although, once created, they most likely cannot manipulate it. I'm like, why?
Interesting.
So,
Well, Toa, depending on the Toa, some Toa already sort of struggle with elemental manipulation, so makes sense.
yeah.
Especially protodermis.
I was thinking it falls into like the Avatar The Last Airbender thing, where it's like firebenders can't really lava bend because lava isn't really fire.
Yeah.
They can manipulate the heat out of it, but they can't manipulate the matter
Yeah.
of it. So I'm guessing it falls into that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, like, it's interesting because, like, you really do you much more rarely see, like, the Toa Metru using their elemental powers as opposed to the Toa Mata and the Toa Nuva who use them all the time.
Yeah, because the Toa Metru are really elementally weak, and they recharge very slowly, because for some reason, they don't like to absorb their elements that much. Like, I was just reading the book or whatever, when they're all starting out trying to collect the Great Discs or whatever, they're all using, like, a thin beam of their elemental power to, like, freeze a small tentacle, and they're like, that completely wiped me out. Whereas Kopaka wakes up and he's like, I'll freeze this entire river right now.
Yeah.
No issue at all.
Again, sorry.
I think it has to do with the fact that protodermis is not the real element.
That's what I was going to say, because the Mata and Nuva would have access to, again, the real elements themselves, and the Metru would have had the protodermis imitation of the elements, which, like we said, in effect are the same thing, right? But maybe they aren't. Like,
And see, that theory appealed to me for a while until I'm like, but when they combine their elemental powers and it makes solid protodermis because they're shooting out protodermic elements. So, and they're also protodermic based beings. So why would manipulating protodermis be harder for them?
Well, I feel like there could potentially be some... We should wait until we get into the theory section to do this. But yes.
Theory section coming up, guys. It's
Hold
going to be
that
crazy.
thought. Hold that thought.
Okay. So, moving on to gas. There's only one type of gas protodermis, and that's the stuff that makes up like clouds and other steam-like objects. So important to note, the air in the domed universe is actual real air. It's not protodermic air. It's just air.
Which would imply that Matau would be much better at controlling the elements. Which
is
actually
true.
does have some support. Because I do feel like Matau uses his element way more than the rest of the
I mean, he
Toa.
does just straight up fly.
flies
Because he has
a
like
lot.
the katanas
Yeah.
like Lua.
Yeah, he
but-
flies a lot. And he doesn't have a mask of levitation.
The mask of levitation doesn't really affect Lua after he becomes a Nuva and gets the katana.
This is true.
And those are mostly what aid his flight rather than his enhanced Nuva powers. So that's always iffy to me. I wouldn't put too much stock in it.
But I'm just saying, it's possible.
It's possible. Fire is also just straight up fire. As is, it's not stated whether electricity is straight up electricity or some sort of weird protodermic electricity, but I'm assuming it is.
It's
See, I
probably
think
just
that-
it's probably just electricity.
I think that makes sense because those are forms of energy.
Yeah.
They aren't physical matter. Whereas like that's why.
But
to
that's
me,
saying
the
anything
air
could
thing-
be protodermis
the
at
air
any
thing
time.
makes no sense because it's like that should be made up of
Especially
protodermis.
since air is molecules.
That's what I'm
which
saying.
are larger than atoms. So there's
Yeah.
no reason
And it's
protodermis
like-
couldn't imitate air.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
yeah.
Oh, it's just strange. Anything at any time could be protodermis. You wake up in your mom's protodermis. You're like, not again.
That's the thumbnail.
Your mom's protodermis. Yeah. So, going over a bit of the specifics of organic protodermis is that since it is part of protodermis, and the organic parts of Matoran and Toa isn't their whole being and is in fact a very small part of their whole being, their soul seems to reside somewhere else in the metallic parts of their body, which is why they can detach limbs painlessly and attach new limbs. This is how the Matoran on Matanui rebuild themselves to be bigger and stronger, because the organic protodermis is just like the metallic part of their being. It's just a part of their being, right? Like it has no more value than their metal arm.
Yeah. So
It often seems like when someone wants to kill a Toa, they have to like disintegrate them entirely or like, completely dismember them. So I wonder, because like in the movie, get to that. But in the movie, it's the Heartstone, right?
Heartlight.
Or the Heartlight, yeah. Which that's where I always assume maybe the soul
So that's
is stored.
like their heart.
Right.
Presumably that's where their soul is stored. Maybe it's stored in their head as
Maybe.
well.
Maybe.
So
I just want to really quickly revisit what you said. So they don't feel like the organic parts of them are more important than the mechanical parts of them. It's all the same part of their body and they don't care. It just all functions together to make them.
yeah, they would care about as much of losing a lung as they would like their head, but they wouldn't care about as much as losing their muscle as they would like our skin.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't really matter. It will just grow back.
That's interesting. I feel like that's weird to think about because we're so biased towards the organic part of it. It'd be like, no, protect the muscle. That's important. Don't let them get that. And it's like to them, they're like, why are you so freaked out about this? Like,
It's only related to how it helps them function.
yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say there are some characters in lore who have parts replaced, right? Like with
All
like
of them
that's
have
what
new-
he's saying.
yeah.
well,
Like,
but
he
like with
upgraded-
different parts, like like a part that's not original to them, correct?
Well, that's how they
Well,
always
that's-
rebuild themselves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, like Nadiki, I guess he's more mutated.
he's mutated,
But yeah.
not rebuilt. There's so many different ways to change your shape in
Yeah.
Bionicle. It does not. Just pick one and go with it.
Jump into energized protodermis.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
my favorite
Shoot yourself in
method.
the face with a reconstituted random disc.
Has someone done that?
No, but the Dark Hunters have shot other people with reconstituted random
So
discs.
Matoran, I'm so done with life. Turns his head into a pickle. Ah!
Turns his head into
I'm a pickle Takua. I'm a pickle. I'm pickle Jowler.
turns his head into a Gadunka.
But a real size Gaduka, so it's like microscopic. So then, other interesting thing about organic protodermis, the Krana, since they are purely organic, they're also made of organic protodermis. So they're not biomechanical, but they are organic protodermis, which is, I don't know, it's strange to me.
No, that makes sense.
The Krata are not protodermis. They are made of antidermis, which is a separate element. So that's important to note. Two purely organic things, one made from protodermis, one from antidermis. Neither purely natural like how exists in our world.
Huh. Okay.
And other interesting thing, organic protodermis goes so far as to imitate cellular structures, although it doesn't have DNA or any sort of equivalent because it self-repairs by just that straight up energy absorption. It's just better muscles and bones
Right.
and whatever.
Okay, so do Matoran and Toa not feel pain then at all, or only specifically like when they're replacing limbs and whatnot?
I don't know if they do feel pain.
I'm trying to think back to like the books.
I don't know. I mean, they
If it
got crushed
references
into the
them
ground
feeling
for
pain.
how long, and they're just like, and they get up and walk away from it. So
They feel fatigue and stuff. I'm assuming they feel pain.
Yeah. To a certain extent. It's probably not the same way.
I'm sure it's mentioned in a book. I'm not recalling a specific scene where it is, though.
It's probably not the same way that we would feel pain.
Yeah, and especially for
exactly.
Toa, if it is, it's extremely dulled. Because, like, they get stabbed and, like, half melted and slammed into rocks and whatever, and they do not care. Right. So, I want to note here about changing different types of protodermis. The way protodermis functions, it seems to have strict criteria for changing between different types. So, like, that's why they need to go refined liquid to molten to whatever, because outside pressures and forces tell the protodermic atomic element, be like, okay, now imitate this molecular structure, right? Like when you're exposed to 5,000 degrees and a windy day, it's like that's when you turn into crystallized protodermis or something.
Okay.
So I'm guessing protodermis, the reason they use it so much is because it can be turned into whatever you happen to need when under strict criteria.
Right.
And it needs the strict criteria because if it was too loose, then you'd be walking along the ground and poof, suddenly it's all liquid protodermis and you die.
Right.
So it has to be pretty strict, but still doable. That's just my quick little note about changing between protodermis. So that's about protodermis normally outside of the Chronicler's corner section. Thoughts?
Thoughts about protodermis outside of Chronicler's corner still?
Correct.
Okay.
wow.
Wow,
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That's largely what I have to say.
Wowie. Zowie.
Yeah, researching this episode, I almost went insane. It is. This is where I had to do the deepest possible research. I went to everything, right? I was checking the primary sources. I was going to the Great Archives, Biosector, random theory channels, BZ Power discussion posts, Greg chats. I was like, I got because it's so dispersed and so strange, and there's no stated unifying theory on how it functions.
Right. I do think to a certain extent, though, and this is interesting because it is very diverse and very strange, but it does make a lot of logical sense in a weird, twisted way. You know, it's like if you think that it's protodermis, it probably is protodermis. And if you think it's something protodermis can do, it probably is something protodermis can do. You know what I mean? Like, to a certain extent. Like Samuel was saying, it's not energy for sure. And so fire is not protodermis, you know, and electricity is probably not protodermis.
Gravity is not protodermis.
Right, exactly. And there are Toa and other beings that can control those elements that aren't protodermis, which of course implies that despite the fact that everything on Markjuly inside the domed universe is made of protodermis for the most part, there are some things that are still outside of that, closed system or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do think some of the distinctions are very strange. Some of them are very pointless, and some of them are just so weird. And then when you get into stuff too, no spoilers, but like later when it starts, some things start mixing and that line gets blurrier. It's like then it gets really confusing.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. I don't know what to say because you'll have to edit this out, because like the most interesting stuff to me is just kind of what we talked about like last week. Like, how does it all work together? Like how does it actually work? But like, I don't know, protodermis is just crazy. Fine.
Yeah. So we'll do energized protodermis first, and then we'll come back to overarching theories on how protodermis could possibly function in a logically consistent way. Hoo boy. So, energized protodermis. This stuff is je ne sais quoi. From a narrative standpoint, I heckin' love energized protodermis because while it is not an actual form of protodermis, it has special properties, mainly being if anything touches it, if it is not destined to transform, it evaporates and disintegrates instantly. Gone forever, irretrievable. if it is destined to transform, it turns into something else with no clue on what it could ever possibly be. It is a true roll of the dice on what you could turn into.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, a few Matoran went into it, right, and they came out as a swarm of giant, mindless monsters. It's like, that's not related to Matoran at all. The Toa Nuva dip their, feet in whatever, and they'd come out more powerful than ever and are the best Toa that could ever possibly be imagined to exist. So it's like, that seems like a just straight up upgrade.
Yeah.
Except in the mask designs. But, you can't win them all. And strangely enough, I was researching this, energized protodermis was used to make the mutagenic substance that the Balrog used on the Borak Call.
Yeah, I think you mentioned
Did I talk
that.
about
Yeah,
that?
you did talk
Okay.
about it.
Because just use the energized protodermis, dum-dum.
Well, they probably wanted a little more control over it, specifically.
How did they get the control to make a mutagenic substance?
That's what I was going to say.
I don't know.
Like,
magic.
if literally anything touches it, that's not destined to touch it and transform, right? Or mutate. It's like, how did they put it in anything? How did they, actually try to create something from it and then use that mutagen to then create the Borakal? It's like, it feels like at that point, they were already destined, so you could have just tossed it into the energized
But the
predator,
Balrog
skipping
didn't
the
know
mutagen. I know, it's just...
It's not like they had a shortage of Borak. Just keep dipping them in till one's destined to transform.
But
We lost another one.
It transforms into a Skakti. Uh-oh.
It's just so weird. It's like the Balrog clearly knew it was extremely powerful, and they knew that if it wasn't, there were some things it would destroy and other things it wouldn't. So Thomas is right. Why didn't they just keep tossing them in, saying who cares? Also, there's no distinct answer on whether Makuta or Toa or Matoran or anything feel pain. There are expressions used throughout some of the books, and
Wait, you looked this up?
yeah, primarily in the books, but where they'll be oh, they were stretched to a point of pain. One was, fell back with a cry of pain. And it's okay, well, that could indicate it. But someone was saying that it's that could, pain could just be, pain is essentially just an overwhelming sensation, upon us, right? And so it's we don't know how to handle that. And so we describe it as pain. And that would be sort of the same thing potentially that the Toa feel, or any of the Matoric beings. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's they could feel pain because we have those descriptions in the books, but it's not necessarily definitive that there is this concept of pain how we understand it.
Yeah, I imagine it more as a warning sign, right?
Well, yeah, that's what the guy that I was reading was saying. It's it is a survival tactic, right? It's to say, hey, you're in trouble, get out of this situation. So it's possible that they had the same sort of thing where it's it wasn't necessarily pain how we'd feel it, but it was some sort of this isn't good for your body. You need to get away from this.
And if translated to readable human eyes, it would seem like
it
pain
would
to
look
us.
like pain to us.
Which fits with how I think Greg would view it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
If
makes
love
sense
is
to me.
anything to go by. Greg's pain's not canon.
Wait, I'm sorry, just really quickly. I just thought of the best way to get past the love's not canon or the pain's not canon. See, it's because it's not actually love or pain. It's really just protodermis rearranging itself to imitate love or pain.
Protodermic pain.
So it's not the real thing, but it's pretty much the real
pain
thing.
is just protodermis leaving the body.
I have to ask, if pain's not canon, then why did they leave Hafu behind?
Emotional pain is very canon.
Fair point. All emotions are allowed except love.
Yes. just in case we never clarified this, Greg has explicitly stated that romantic love is non-canon in the Bionicle universe.
To be completely fair, he also said the same thing about doors and wheels.
Yes.
So,
Which we have like
There's
there are some
multiple
pretty questionable
examples.
examples that seem to disprove
The
those
entire archives
statements.
would disprove the doors thing. And the Manus crabs with wheels would disprove the wheel thing.
I do want to clarify, though. I believe he said doors were not canon on Matanui specifically.
Yes, and I also believe he was talking about like hinged doors, like how
Right.
we'd have normal doors. They would have alternative methods.
I love how you'd have to say doors aren't canon on Matanui instead of just saying they don't use doors on Matanui,
No.
right? Like,
Well, he didn't say doors aren't canon. He just... That's what people...
The wheel thing, though, I
The
have
wheel
no
thing
clue
doesn't
what
make
he's
any
smoking.
sense. There's multiple Lego sets that have wheels that are multiple Bionicle sets that have wheels.
Yeah, it's whatever, Greg. Okay, you do you. But back to energized protodermis.
Sorry. That was a real box
So
or
Yeah.
Boxor.
Some of it was Boxor, but anyway, mutations can also be combinations. So like we see this happen with Takuda Nuva when Takunuva and Makuta jump in, it merges them together. This is actually pretty common when two beings go into protodermis at the same time, which is another reason the Toa Nuva are so lucky because they all six of them went at the same time. They
the
came out
ultimate
fun.
Although
Toa
a to-
Kaida right
Yeah,
there.
a Toa Nuva Kaida would be insanely cool.
It's theoretically possible. It's called a Toa Nui. But
I
it's-
think we did talk
Yeah,
about
I
this
think we
in the
talked
Nova
about
that.
episode.
Yeah, because they're hard-coded not to be able to do it because it could theoretically be the most powerful being in the universe. So, yeah.
But other Toa can form Nui.
Toa cannot form Nuis. They can only form Kaitas. Matoran and Taraga can form Nuis.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's like- because they wouldn't be powerful enough to destroy the world.
Yeah. Right.
I have another quick side note. Who decides the destiny of the universe?
Destiny decides the destiny.
We'll discuss this at a
Unclear.
later date.
It just is, Samuel.
It can also be legitimately manipulated, which is very strange. But enough of that. Interesting thing about Destiny, though, coming back to Destiny, is that it can affect items as well. So you can dip items in energized protodermis, and they'll transform or be destroyed. So items do have literal destinies.
They do have destinies.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's crazy. Especially since, well, actually, I was going to say, I can't think of any, like, named items, like, specifically named items in the Bionicle universe, but there are a few. They're just few and far between.
Well,
like the Kodan ball for some freaking reason.
That's destined to be the goat. The substance the Balrog dip in was destined to transform into the mutagen.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, and you know the stone monster I mentioned that kidnapped Taraga Wunua back in the Matoran episode?
Mm-hmm.
That was rock that was transformed by energized protodermis into sentient living being.
Okay, so that was going to be part of my question here is so an item can be dipped into it and it becomes whatever. And it's like, that kind of makes sense because if a Matoran can do it or a Toa can do it, then it's like they're all made up of protodermis. What makes this special over this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, if you find a pool of energized protodermis, the rock that is touching that energized protodermis was destined to not transform and hold that energized protodermis.
That's not actually true. There are very few substances that do not transform. Interact with energized protodermis.
Yeah.
They can safely contain them. But they are rare, and every single pool of energized protodermis we find in the story is lined with that substance.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
there is good reason for it. But I thought that would be
Yeah.
funny because it's
Imagine
like, okay.
trying to figure that out, though. You're just dipping stuff in energized protodermis. Nope. Wood can't hold it because that turned into some kind of weird stick bug thing. Nope.
Yeah.
Light crystals can't hold it because that turned into a firefly monster.
Whoop, this guy I hate can't hold it. What a shame.
He turned into a pile of dust. Oh no.
charred forest, but it's just energized protodermis.
I just can't get over this because it's like, well, maybe they thought, oh, well, something is holding this energized protodermis. If we mine out part of this, like whatever's lining this protodermis pool, energized protodermis pool, then we can just like replicate that to hold protodermis, right? But it's like, how did they figure out how to create that substance that holds energized protodermis?
Look, man, how did someone figure out how to cure olives? Okay, they just did.
So when he means curing olives, he means making olives edible, not like treating a disease that olives have.
You take them to the olive hospital and you have them see the olive specialist.
How did someone figure out that every part of the tomato was poisonous except the actual tomato? All right, Samuel?
To be fair, that one's kind of obvious. Do I eat the big juicy red looking thing or the lame untasty green
Try that with
part?
the nightshade berries and see how that goes for you, Thomas.
See, none of that's edible. Interesting thing to note, though, if energized protodermis does hit an object, like when it transforms it or whatever, part of that energized protodermis does evaporate and disappear. So if you throw it at like rock or whatever, it will dig down, transforming or destroying the rock, and then eventually dissipate because all the energized protodermis has been used up.
So it's almost like every, let's say, molecular atom of the energized protodermis interacts with potentially one or more atoms or molecules of whatever substance it touches, but then those two react essentially to create whatever they're destined to become.
I'm guessing it would just get transformed into energy.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And
And
then,
so it makes sense that it would then get used up.
correct. Which I'm like, okay, that's actually pretty cool. And another way to get rid of energized protodermis is to freeze it. If you freeze it, it loses all of its properties until thawed out, but it's also highly flammable. So if you like hit it with a highly explosive substance, it also blows up. So it's super, super dangerous to be around in every possible way. And other interesting thing, going back to your point about it being protodermis, it does not have to be protodermis to transform from energized protodermis. We see this with the Crota, which are antidermis made from Makuta essence. They put in pools of energized protodermis to turn into Rakshi. So it can affect anything, not just protodermic beings or protodermis.
Would that include like real elements?
Well, it can't transform fire. It explodes when it's near fire.
Yeah, but like water.
Yes, if it's near like real
or-
water or whatever, yes, it would destroy or transform it.
Remind me when we get to Chronicler's Corner. I have a question about
That's
that
kind of
then.
a shame that we don't ever see that happen. Like
Like with
energized
the Crota.
protodermis interact with like a true element. That would be interesting. I wonder if it would have a stronger reaction or a less strong reaction.
I think it would have the same reaction. Final note about energized protodermis. Makuta has a bit of it in his lair because he mixes it with something called a Makuta virus to create some evil Rahi. So that's why he has a bunch of it just laying around.
The Makuta virus.
Yeah. Guess who came up with that name? Hafu, probably.
No, Hafu's not evil.
No, he's not evil. He's just so good at whatever he does that Makuta went to him and he's like, I need a name for this virus. And he's like, the Makuta virus. And he's like, love it.
Genius.
Hafu walks into man guy and Makuta's like, I'll give you whatever you want, Hafu.
Oh gosh.
I'm just imagining now Hafu walking into man guy and Akmu walking out and they're looking at each other like the meme.
I love it. That's your next meme, Thomas.
That's the meme for the Instagram.
Yeah. Okay, so now protodermic theories, the overarching theories of how normal protodermis functions.
Can we consider this to be Chronicler's Corner, basically?
No.
Dang it. How am I supposed to give a good theory without being able to...
Spoil stuff.
Yeah.
This is like the physical fundamental laws of nature interacting with the atomic element protodermis.
Like we're talking about like how it works on a physical level, not like theories about
Okay,
what
so my
happens
theory...
in its, I don't know, solid
Yeah,
or
yeah.
you know,
Yeah. My
completed
theory
forms.
is that it's like imitation sugar. It functions essentially the same way. It has certain advantages, but it's never going to be quite as good as the real thing. That's my theory.
Except it's better than the real thing.
But is it?
Would you rather be made out of living metal or your weak flesh blood buddy?
Anyways,
Got him.
I don't think it is necessarily better than the real thing. It just has certain advantages.
Like being better.
But it has certain disadvantages.
I was gonna say, it would have to have
It
some
does.
disadvantages
It does. For
too.
example, not being as potent for usage with
If that's true. If
elemental
that's true,
packs.
that's a
I think
theory.
it's true. I think it's true. I don't think
You think whatever you want, son. my southernness.
I mean, I do agree with Jacob that does make sense.
It does make sense.
But it doesn't.
It doesn't fit with the evidence,
it is not
though.
proven to be true.
Yes.
So unfortunately, that's a moot point.
Yeah. So starting off with the theory Samuel and I tried to devise is Bionicle is explicitly stated to work on different fundamental physical laws. So this gives Greg leeway to do whatever the heck he wants, right?
Yeah.
Like for instance, we've talked about how Toa can just create matter because they can make like stone or earth out of nothing, and their elemental energy just recharges passively over time. So over enough time, they can just make like a planetoid, essentially. So that is one way in which we know it does break the laws of physics. So our theory, or at least this part, it allows a substance like protodermis to bond itself in different combinations of structures, all made up of protodermis. This allows it to imitate molecules, and we believe that almost all the fundamental forces of Bionicle care about molecular structure rather than atomic structure, right?
Yeah.
Because if it cares about atomic structure,
Then it doesn't make sense.
nothing makes sense.
Because they're all essentially the same atom.
It just wouldn't work. But if it only cares about molecules, then protodermis imitating molecules would then make the fundamental forces recognize it as that force, right? If they're imitating water, it treats it like water. If they're imitating metal, it treats it like metal, which is why the fundamental force of elemental control and manipulation recognizes protodermic imitations as well as the real element.
Yeah.
So does that make sense, Jacob?
I think it's important, just really quickly, to explain kind of like how this is different than what we know, right? Like, so everything is made up of protodermis, and like we said, if it based on atomic properties, it doesn't make sense because everything's made up of the same atom. So that's why it's important that it takes a molecular structure, or that there's some sort of structure that defines how everything is built in this universe. And it's like, because we're used to a whole bunch of different elements, different atoms, then combine into molecules to make the substances that we know. This would completely negate the element aspect of it, and it would just say the structures are the most important things. And also worth noting is that the structures wouldn't necessarily, the protodermic structures wouldn't necessarily look like the actual physical molecules of, let's say, water, right? So you have H2O. It's not going to make the little triangle shape that we know that H2O makes, right? That's not necessarily what the protodermic structure of water, right, is going to look like. It could look like who knows what. But the important thing is that it's protodermis in a specific structure that makes it act like water, as opposed to acting like stone, acting like, you know, wood, acting like whatever else. So just to expand on that.
Yeah,
a little
no,
bit.
that's a good explanation because I couldn't explain that. I don't know that in depth.
Someone has a theory that protodermis on Markjuly is like a compound. So it may not be pure protodermis. It may be like mixed with other quote unquote real elements, which would help kind of explain how it has such vastly different properties. And then also could explain why they need to like purify it, for example. Like how they do in Metru by like going through that purification process. So maybe they're like liquid protodermis is protodermis mixed with actual real water, to a certain extent. And then they're getting all of the actual
Did they
water
say what
out.
protodermis is?
What do you mean?
Like they're saying protodermis is mixed with water to make liquid protodermis.
Like, is protodermis then an element?
Is it a molecule or an atomic
They didn't
element?
say specifically what it was, but
Because
yeah.
there's a lot of theories you can make, but it is literally stated to be an atomic element.
Right.
So it's like makes it really difficult to say
Well,
it
in that
mixes
case,
with
then
anything.
it could be like H2OP, right? So it's like water with an additional atomic element added onto it.
But again, that doesn't quite jive with like all the Toa combining their elemental powers to make pure protodermis.
I would consider that to be more of an anomaly than anything. I mean, there's lots of elements that you could have, the pure element and it would be perfectly stable, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're...
Yeah, the solids, the normal solids.
Yeah. So I don't see why not.
I guess because it goes against stated intentions of all of the authors. Like they state, like, this is protodermis, not protodermic water. Right.
Right, but it, that could also potentially just be a colloquialism, right? Like referring to something.
It would be if, like, whenever Greg references it, he calls it protodermis.
Mm-hmm.
He's not using an in-universe colloquialism.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe it's like this is how the people in this universe would refer to it. They would refer to it as protodermis, even though it's a water protodermis compound, right? We call table salt, even though there's lots of different types of salts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Suppose it's possible. I guess I would just go against it because it doesn't seem as lore friendly.
Yeah.
On a thing unrelated to the fundamental nature of protodermis, but in more going back to how it changes form, I think molten protodermis is, since it's the end goal of a lot of the production, it seems to be the most versatile in how it changes into different forms of protodermis, because like all metallic protodermis, tons of solid protodermis like we see with Takoro, right, where it's more stone-like, masks, tools, and when Kanoka discs are merged together, they're melted down and turned into molten protodermis and cast again. So I think molten protodermis would be the state where protodermis is most easily manipulated into different kinds of protodermis. So I'm like, I wouldn't hazard, once it's in that condition, be the most susceptible, just as a universal, like, you need a different type of element, okay, just get it hot enough and you can make it.
Yeah.
So,
which again kind of holds to that theory that if creating different types of protodermis is done through creating alloys, then that makes sense because, oftentimes we purify something by heating it up really, really, really hot so it separates, right? Like remove the other elements from it by getting it really hot. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah, one weird thing about molten protodermis is when it's on Markjuly, when it's no longer being used, they dump it back into the Silver Sea, and it doesn't seem to add any landmass to Markjuly. So it is either like what creates tiny little imperfections of like little metallic or solid protodermis in the Silver Sea, or it turns back into liquid protodermis. If it turns back into liquid protodermis, that would support Samuel and I's theory of it being just imitating molecular structures, right? However, if it does just cause weird imperfections or whatever, that could support all the other theories as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think so. Like one thing too is protodermis is silver, right? In like its purest form, correct?
it's like a bluish silver, I think.
Yeah, like a bluish silver, which could contribute to the Silver Sea, right? So,
well, yeah, raw liquid protodermis is half clear and silvery. Why it's called the Silver Sea.
Yeah.
Refined liquid protodermis is fully clear and slightly bluish. It's not silver.
Oh, okay, not silver.
Mm-hmm. So the silver could be the metallic imperfection, which the Knowledge Towers YouTube theory, that's his theory. Protodermis is just heckin' weird, though. Like, there's no straight up answers.
It is weird that there are no answers. Like, not none, but there are very few. There are none enough to give a definitive, concrete understanding of how it works, what it is.
Yes. They're like, here's what everything in the universe is made out of. I will not elaborate further.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, bro. Sure. Okay, so, any closing thoughts before we move to Chronicler's Corner?
Chronicler's Corner, my favorite.
I do not have any really major closing thoughts. I mean, it's just...
I feel like protodermis is just so frustrating because there's so many theories that almost fit, and then there's just something about it that doesn't quite.
It's the literal meme of makes no sense. Compels me though.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the next meme. Okay, and with that, we move on to Chronicler's Corner. Ba-da-da-da. You are now entering the Chronicler's Corner. The following content may not be appropriate for viewers unaware or unacquainted with the wider Bionicle lore, as major plot points and reveals will be spoiled. If you wish to avoid this section, skip to this time in the podcast.
1 hour, 34 minutes, 3 seconds.
Viewer discretion is advised. For the Chronicler's Corner, energized protodermis is first on the chopping block. So, we know it's a naturally occurring element because it was first discovered leaking out of the core of Spherus Magna.
Mm-hmm. And Spherus Magna is not
made out
part
of
of the
protodermis.
GSR, so thus it is made up of actual
and
elements.
Biosector says that the great beings were experimenting with creating protodermis first, and then they discovered energized protodermis.
Yeah. And apparently creating protodermis is a pretty easy process to do en masse because they made enough for 2 Earth-sized robots. So, like,
either that or they just did it over a very long period of time, which is also possible.
I mean, yeah.
Although the great beings don't strike me as the most patient people ever.
No, yeah, they're not super patient. They're persistent, though. Like, their first robot blew up, and they're like, we'll just make another one. Okay. It's like second Death Star energy. It's also, energized protodermis is also a energy stabilizer. It's what's used in the core of the GSR to keep it together. The first robot blew up because it wasn't stabilized by energized protodermis. So when the energized protodermis came out, they're like, okay, we got to get our hands on this stuff because it could make our giant robot dreams come true, right?
Right.
It's also used in the Red Star to stabilize its core.
So I just want to clarify because I thought Jacob said that they experimented with energized protodermis.
No, they
Experimented
They
with
were creating regular
protodermis
protodermis
when
first,
they found
and
energized
then they found energized protodermis.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is the whole reason. I don't know if you know this, Samuel, but that's the whole reason why Bar Magna split, because they went to war.
I
over
do
the
remember a
energized
little bit of that
protodermis. Yeah.
when Glatorian was actually
And since
like when
energized
it was coming out.
Yeah, and since energized protodermis is highly unstable and unpredictable, since it was left to like fester and whatever everyone was trying to
Also
get
extremely highly flammable,
Exactly.
as we now know.
Right.
it exploded, and a lot of it went into space and froze, so it's now inert. Just bad news all around. Energized protodermis causes all sorts of problems.
So maybe
I
they
can't
named
hate it.
the energized protodermis after protodermis, not the other way around.
Because it would have a silvery synthetic kind of feel.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Good point.
I'm a genius.
Really quickly, how do they use it to stabilize? What does that mean? Do they elaborate or no?
I'm guessing it's just a weird energy conductor.
Like,
Well, and I feel like probably the only reason that they said that is because there's mentions of energized protodermis. I think they mention it with being in Cardinui, right?
There's no energized protodermis
They
in
don't mention
Cardinal.
that?
It's mutagenic because it's the Aqua Magnacy coming down.
Yeah, no, I know. Which, again, also doesn't really make sense.
Well, part of the Aqua Magnacy, I believe, is mutagenic because energized protodermis leaked out the reactor into the surrounding water.
Right.
But don't quote me on that. I think it may also just be straight up mutagenic on its own.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure.
cool.
Wasn't the
Yeah.
was the Codrex made out of energized protodermis?
Protodex is just normal protodermis.
Oh.
It could be mutagenic too, because if there was a lot of energized protodermis on Spherus Magna when it blew up, then it could have it could have contaminated the water that then became Aqua Magna, right?
That's true. Which would explain why
That's true, yeah.
the energized protodermis has a lot of similar, like what we see it do is very similar to what the mutagenic water in the pit does, just to a lesser extent. Yeah.
Marnui's on Aqua Magna.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
I'm just saying
how it transforms the
it transforms
Barraki, right?
different people into different things, but just to a lesser extent than like sticking them straight into energized protodermis would.
It's a literal diluted energized protodermis, potentially.
The thing about the Aqua Magna mutation is it's not based on destiny. It's true mutation.
Right. Yeah.
Which is, so.
But it could be one of those things where it's like the Barraki mutagen, which was derived from energized protodermis, maybe something about the combination of the seawater and the energized protodermis made a mutagen that transformed them.
See, I want to know, it seems like the Mask of Life has very similar powers to energized protodermis, because they also can transform things based off of their destiny, which is very strange. So I want to know, is there a connection there?
Actually, it transforms based off of their evolutionary path. If an
Sometimes.
No, because evolution and mutation are two different things in Bionicle. So Matoran, when they turn into Barraki, it's essentially certain genes that are switched if they're destined to that allow them to turn into a Barraki. The Mask of Life can just accelerate the progress of those specific genes. It can't make someone destined to be a Barraki.
Weird.
Yes.
Okay, but then explain... Okay, wait, because I'm trying to think of all the things it mutates. Because it mutates Gadunka for some reason.
It mutates the beetle.
Well, it just makes Gadunka bigger.
It does. True.
Yeah, it can mutate all sorts of random stuff.
Yeah.
It could replicate the effects of energized protodermis, but it doesn't do it based on destiny.
And there's no connection there.
The Mask of Life is actually an anomaly even among great masks, because it kind of has a life of its own and it affects non-Matoran Universe beings.
Right.
Which is pretty unique.
Well, and it makes sense too, because it's really the only mask that was not really ever intended to be used on a regular basis.
No, the Vahi was never intended to be used
ever. That's a good point.
Artaka was just like,
So, really quickly, going back to what you said about the Matoran. An Matoran may have the genes that would be needed to make a Barraki, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are destined to become a Barraki, right?
I'm assuming if they're destined to become a Barraki, then they have the genes. If they're not, they do not have the genes, or the gene could just be off, and the Anika could switch it on.
That's what I was kind of wondering.
But Greg has only stated it can transform a destined Matoran, not any Matoran. So I'm assuming the genes don't exist if they're not destined to transform.
I hate that piece of lore so much.
That's what got me into this, because I'm like, I need people to know Matoran turn into Barraki. It's vitally important to me.
I hate it so much. And Krana.
No, they don't turn into Krana. That'd be
they
stupid.
turned into Krana.
No.
So
the Barraki make Krana.
Oh, that's right.
Out of thin air.
Do you think then that the Anika draws either itself or its wearer or the spirit of Madanui, in the case of Madanui, to something that is destined, outcome it wants?
Yes.
So for example, on Bara Magna, when he turns the beetle into his shield, right? Is he drawn to that particular beetle, not any of the others, because that beetle is destined to become his shield?
So, like I said, the Mask of Life does not care about destiny at all. The only reason the Matoran case is special is because if they're not destined to transform, the genes to evolve do not exist.
Okay.
So it can just transform the beetle into whatever heck it wants because it's a living creature.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is actually probably true of most things, right? If it's not destined to transform, then it won't. You can't force something to transform because it doesn't have the actual capability to do so. Right?
Well, the Mask of Life doesn't It's just a weird. It's
The
kind
Mask of Life is weird.
It's kind
The
of
Mask of Life
arbitrary in
does
what
what
it
it
does.
wants.
Yeah, it does whatever the heck it wants.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it's
The Mask of
Like,
Life
it's-
is sort of like the One Ring, except it's not evil. It's very self-serving. Almost everything it does is in its own interest, to a certain extent.
not really, because we'll get into it.
Yeah.
The Mask of Life has a lot of weird things about
I just
it.
want to say that, though, really quickly, thinking about this. It's kind of like, in my mind, the Mask of Light is like free will. Okay? Like, there's the people who you would argue that we have free will. None of our choices are predestined, right? Like, every choice we make, got to make that choice. There are people who would argue free will doesn't exist and that every choice we make is already predestined. So in my understanding of the Bionicle universe, it is more like a predestined thing where everything does have a destiny, whether that is destruction or transformation or just staying itself, right? For the whole thing. So the Mask of Life, when it transforms something, that is its destiny, but not necessarily because it has some sort of specific gene or whatever that is going to make it like it would transform on its own. It's just that is what it is destined to do, right? So it's not the Mask of Life channeling like accelerating the destiny as in it's already pre-chosen to do that. It's just that it is, I mean, it's so confusing. It is like a free will argument. It's like, so that creature is destined to turn into this thing. And it's like, so the Mask of Life did choose something with that destiny, but the Mask of Life chose it, right? It made that choice.
Yeah, it's essentially like a metaphysical, like, super agent, right? Where it can make choices that no one else in the story is allowed to make.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
Very strange.
yeah, it's very, very strange. That's why I said I didn't want to get into it, because we're going to do a lot on it
Sorry.
later. No, it's fine. And we haven't even gotten to the twist of energized protodermis. The twist is all energized protodermis is alive, and it's a weirdo.
Yeah.
So energized protodermis is a collective consciousness that can physically manifest wherever energized protodermis is present. So this is known as the energized protodermis entity, who is cleverly named, might I add.
Or EP.
Yeah.
Yeah, the EPE for short. And this is so... It's one of my favorite additions to the lore, because it makes energized protodermis, which is mysterious and scary, even more mysterious and scary, right? The main problem with the energized protodermis in a in-universe perspective is that he's kind of a self-centered jerkwad who thinks he's better than everyone else. So he's like, oh, you're made out of normal protodermis and flesh and blood, whatever. I'm like the perfect being. I just dissolve stuff that I touch. Also, let me throw a glob at you and see if you transform, right?
Yeah.
Because it can vaguely sense if something's destined to transform, but it still doesn't know what the heck it will transform into. So it's just like, that's why it allows Makuta of any type to use energized protodermis to make Rahi or transform things, because like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
They're movers and shakers. Come on, so yeah.
So Samuel, Makuta Pterodax isn't the only one who uses Makuta viruses. Every
I gathered.
Makuta that deals with, especially Rahi creation, uses Makuta viruses, and they're basically like a catalyst. You toss it into a vat of energized protodermis and see what happens.
It's more like the Geno randomizer from Power Rangers Dino Thunder, where it's like I take a mushroom style thing and I take a car style thing and I put them in and I get a car mushroom guy.
Right.
When they're putting energized protodermis, that's the catalyst to actually create the beast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the Geno randomizer itself.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And so you have like certain Makuta who specialize in that. Like Mutran is literally, his whole specialization is creating Rahi.
Makes
Right.
sense.
So
yeah, and that's Makuta created all the Rahi in the Matoran universe. So they have when they use specific Makuta viruses, it is repeatable results every time they throw it into the EP.
Cool.
So yeah,
Just like it would be to throw a destined Avmatoran into.
no, because if something is destined, usually it only transforms once into whatever it's destined to be. If it's hit again, it usually disintegrates, because the odds of needing to transform twice are low.
But I'm talking about like repeatable Makuta virus is not the same object every time. It will produce the same result, but it's not like you're taking the Rahi that produces and throwing it back in.
Correct, yes.
That's what I'm saying. So they're distinct, just like Matoran would be distinct.
Correct, yes. Yes.
Did you know that the energized protodermis entity fought Helrix?
How does that work?
So
Helrix is an absolute beast. Just for
the energized protodermis entity fights a lot of stuff, but basically Helrix and Botar, I believe, and some other Order Madanui members were going to the energized protodermis. They're like, hey, would you stop giving the Makuta energized protodermis or any other faction? And the energized protodermis is like, no, why would I stop doing that? And then he tries to kill them all by flooding them with energized protodermis. So Botar, Botar wasn't there. I don't know how they got there. So they're all standing there like they're gonna die. And then out of nowhere, Vezon teleports in because he has the Mask of Dimensional Gates, right into that very moment. Gets hit by the energized protodermis. The Mask of Dimensional Gates fuses with his head, just like the Mask of Life did.
And Vezon must have been so tired of having masks fused to his head.
And then he teleports all of them out of there. So Helrix didn't fight the energized protodermis entity. She just kind of lost to it.
Sorry, really quickly. So, just thinking about this. Vezon has a mask of what'd you say?
Dimensional gates.
Interdimensional gates. Okay, so how does it get separated from Vezon and then come to Brudica's possession?
So this is after.
It's after.
These are the web serials after the main story.
Isn't Helrix the first Toa?
Yeah. So there's basically...
She's still around.
There's basically this whole little, like, Suicide Squad group that gets made of the most random people, but it's excellent because they're all amazing characters.
We'll get into that in the serials because it's Federation of Fear.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to it.
It's iconic, though. Like, the characters that are in this weird, stupid little suicide group is amazing.
Well, yeah, Vezon is just...
Yeah. Vezon's
He's so funny. Anyway,
Vezon's like, if I had a nickel for every time a mask got fused to my head, I'd have 2 nickels.
Yeah, a super powerful golden mask. Other interesting note about the energized protodermis entity is that he never revealed himself to the Makuta or the Great Beings. The whole time, they did not know Protodermis was alive and just looking at him, I guess. But the Toa Metru walk into one little pool and it's like, I'm gonna kill you. Which honestly, I totally agree with. Get him.
I think maybe it's because it already had a proclivity towards evil, clearly. It was like, I like the Makuta. It's like, I'm just gonna let them use my school of Protodermis, and it's like, those Toa, I hate them. Let's get them.
Yeah, exactly. Except for the Toa Nova, he's like, I love these guys. More of these, please.
Yeah, if it says anything, the form, it's arguable, but the form that he takes is with the Mask of Shadows and a vague look of Makuta.
So
yes, I know it's arguable. In the books, it's described as looking vaguely Toa Metru-ish.
Yes.
But then in one of the games, it's basically like he looks like Makuta, more or less.
Yeah. And when we get,
it's not it doesn't have a gender.
In the community section, there's the mock that I make, and he goes through the different forms of how it would look in the mock. So I think that's the best way to say it, because it can manifest as anything.
Yeah.
Right. So final note on energized protodermis is the Order of Madanui did develop a compound that destroys EP when combined with it. So like it just neutralizes it rather than like exploding or whatever.
So which feels like it would be incredibly useful.
So they found he's a compound that is destined to just do nothing.
To destroy energized
because like we said, when it interacts with something, it gets used up.
Except it doesn't like disintegrate or destroy, because that's like a release of energy. As far as I can tell, it just like makes them both disappear without any sort of
release.
Yeah, it neutralizes it without a release of energy.
But even a neutralization would have energy.
Yeah,
release.
If it is, it's not close to as extreme as it would be otherwise.
Huh.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, I was like, okay, you don't really need that. Just throw enough rocks in it. But then you run the risk of like a giant rock monster coming out and fighting you. I suppose it's a safer bet. It's also funny though, because like he doesn't want to work with Helrix, and Helrix is like, kill him all, just destroy, erase him from reality.
That's a good response,
Yeah,
honestly.
I'm like, what, he
It's like,
deserves
you
it.
know what? I've seen too much. Hellrix is like, I can't deal with this anymore.
That's why Hellrix is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
She's just like so done with everything.
Yeah, Hellrix and Kyoshi would get along so well.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
kill it. So yeah, Great Beings were the ones who created normal protodermis, and the entire GSR is made out of normal protodermis. I believe it is made that way because either Matanui himself could transform protodermis into different states, or the Matoran could transform it for whatever they need, which we see them doing, right?
Yeah.
Turning water into
Wine. Oh wait, no.
giant
That's
metallic
Matora.
tools is what I was going to say. That's Jesus, Jacob.
I said that.
I thought you said Matora. Oh, Matora. Got it. So, that's the only Chronicler's Corner about normal protodermis that I have, unless you had anything else to add on that.
No, as far as I know, that I think I said everything that I knew about that.
Okay. Then finally we move on to antidermis, the stuff that Makuta are made out of. So this is like protodermis, but it's not, obviously. That's why it's called antidermis. And is a synthetic blackish green substance that comes in liquid, gaseous, solid, and organic form, just like protodermis, which is annoying. So the caveats being, it is much harder to create en masse. For instance, all the antidermis that we know of in the world fits in like a pool on a single island. So it seems to be about as much antidermis as there is energized protodermis. So very, 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 very small compared to 2 planet-sized giant robots of normal protodermis. Right. It's nearly impossible to manipulate its state from one to another, unlike protodermis, which you can turn from molten to metal or whatever. It has a collective consciousness like the energized protodermis entity, but it can't manifest or form anything. It's much more subdued. And the pure state of the collective consciousness of the pooled antidermis is not, strictly speaking, evil. It's kind of more neutral and wants to follow along the original path that the Makuta were created for, where they're supposed to be beings of shadow, but not evil. So, it is weird that 2 of the things called protodermis have conscious entities inside of them,
Sure.
and the giant robot made out of protodermis has a conscious entity inside of him. So if you meet protodermis, odds are it's conscious and may want to kill you.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I think it's interesting. You would think that the one called antidermis that's actively being used by Makuta and also creates the Krata would be the one that's actively evil, but no.
But nope.
No.
Got it all wrong.
Greg pulled a switcheroo on us. And this is confirmed also in an alternate universe where Makuta, who were pure good, were still made out of antidermis. So it is not inherently evil.
Yeah, there was this one alternate universe where all the Makuta are like good guys.
Like the Toa, essentially.
Which has spawned some incredibly cool mobs.
Oh yeah,
I have to
Makuta
say.
in all white looks sick.
It looks so cool. With the gold mask.
Mm-hmm. So, antidermis can be taken and used to form a Makuta, in which case the collective consciousness has no sway over that Makuta. It is now a purely new, individual, separate being. So the pool of antidermis is a separate consciousness from all 100 Makuta in existence. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A Makuta's antidermis, once it's formed in a Makuta, can regenerate over a period of time. So like when they make Krata, it's a part of antidermis, whatever, but it regenerates, filling back up their soul space.
That's weird.
Essentially. It is very weird. It's also weird because antidermis is a literal physical thing, but it is like their soul, almost. So it's very bizarre. So the only way to really kill a Makuta is if it dissipates, right? So if it's out of its armor too long, it'll just spread apart and the Makuta will die, or to like destroy a large majority of it in one go, right? So like vaporizing a ton of it. It can be destroyed by intense heat, light, and cold, and when in the Makuta's body, the antidermis soul spirit stuff acts like a gas and contains the Makuta's essence. So their armor is proto-steel, and it functions more like actual armor than like the biomechanical beings in the rest of the Matoran universe. Right. So like inside a Toa, there's lungs, there's tubes, there's wires, there's stuff like that. Inside a Makuta, it's just an empty shell full of antidermis. Does that make sense?
A mechanical shell, so like a Makuda's shell would be able to move.
Yeah, like it
On
has
it.
mechanical moving
Yeah.
parts.
So like, would it be
more
able to-
similar to like Exotoa?
Yeah, I was gonna say, would it be able to move independently like an Exotoa though?
No, their armor's not designed to move independently like an Exotoa.
Okay, it has to be controlled by a spirit or whatever.
Correct.
Okay, it says here that they can be destroyed by heat and cold.
Mm-hmm.
Don't Makuta have heat and cold resistance?
Yeah. But they have to concentrate on that, right? So if they're using their disintegration power and someone hits them with the full force of the sun, they're still going to die because they didn't have their heat resistance up.
It also is heat resistance, not heat vulnerability.
Even though it says it can withstand even Toa Nuva Tahu's heat, which is pretty hot.
So it really is the sun. You just need
I bet
to launch
Levok
them into
Call
the
could take
sun.
him out. Or sorry, not Levok Call, just a normal Levok.
You gotta stop calling Tahu hot, man. Love is not canon.
That's not love.
Yeah. Also, since antidermis does not manipulate or does not imitate elements like protodermis does, it can't be elementally manipulated. There's no Toa of antidermis. Right.
Wait, that would be sick though.
I guess that's just a Makuta, essentially.
Yeah, that's true.
And then two final things being the antidermis makes Matoran susceptible.
Subjectable to mess.
Yes. It makes Matoran susceptible to suggestion. And for some reason, Bruticus species is massively buffed when exposed to antidermis. Like, in the web serial later on, he falls into the pool of antidermis, right? And he comes out and he's like bursting at the seams. He's turned into like absolute Batman style of this guy's nuts. And he gets access to some Makuta powers like teleportation, and he can hear the Makuta collective consciousness in his mind. But that's just for his species specifically, not a Brutica thing or like an anyone thing. So it's like, why? No clue. Never answered. He can just do that. He's just built different, literally. And then not most importantly, but interestingly, antidermis beings probably cannot be revived on the red star. So if a Makuta's dead, it's gone. So that brings us to the end of the Chronicler's Corner, and since there is no technical section, we'll move to community after this.
Wait.
So does a protodermis make any more sense to you?
Honestly, I think I'm more confused now than I was before I went into this.
I don't think I'm more confused. I just have more information that still is not reconciled in my brain, right?
That's more accurate to what I was thinking. I'm not actually confused. I think I have a solid grasp of what protodermis is and does, but it's the question of what, like...
Of what it is and what it can do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah. Like, I know what it is and does, but I don't know what it is and what it can
does.
do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now imagine having to research this entire thing
Yeah.
and try and write it all down.
Hey, man. I had to research all the Crota, okay?
Dude,
You know,
I was literally saying, I was talking to Sam when I was writing this script. I'm like, I know how Jacob felt when he's trying to research the stupid Crota.
Yep.
Just blows your mind.
Yep.
So, yeah, protodermis, completely whack. Energized protodermis, even more whack.
I kind of love it though. I mean, it's just like...
It is.
Oh yeah, and antidermis. Sorry, I didn't let you finish.
No, it's
Antidermis is also whack.
Antidermis.
Dude,
but the least whack.
It is the least
Antidermis
whack,
is like
which is
weirdly like the redheaded stepchild of protodermis. It's like, it's there. You know, it exists. It exists mainly to be a Makuta
thing.
explanation.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
But like I said in the intro, I think this is a unique Bionicle concept. I've like never seen an atomic element like mimic every other type of like molecular structure
Yeah.
so strangely. But I'm like, there's no reason for this to exist. You didn't need this. Like
Like you could have just explained the whole world exactly with the elements that we know in our world.
Exactly.
It's like, why? What was the necessity of
you did
this?
not need to make Markjuly turn water into lava. Like, that was a lore element you could have changed entirely and no one would be like, where's my water lava?
But it's so cool.
Right? It is cool. I'm like, it makes Bionicle such a unique and fascinating world, right? A weird and wondrous world of Bionicle.
Yep.
Indeed.
You are now entering the community portion of the podcast. In this section, we showcase some of our favorite creations from talented and passionate members of the Bionicle fandom.
So, now we move on to community, and I want to thank again the Knowledge Tower on YouTube for helping spark my investigation into this, because going off of his theory, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to contextualize things either against it or with it. The Great Archives, Biosector 1, just very useful source of information. BZ, Power, all of those websites that it do for most of the heavy lore research. And then we have one mock, because protodermis is not a concept that is great for mock making or fan art.
I like how even like the one mock that we're looking at, the designer is basically talking about how difficult it was to do because Lego pieces don't look like liquid.
Nope. But they do a really heckin' good job.
Indeed.
So this is the energized protodermis entity by Kutorok on the TTV message boards, and it is so heckin' cool. This is one of my favorite mocks of all time. The first version of it is the energized protodermis entity. From the waist down, it's kind of like a blob flowing into a silver pool, but from the waist up, it has... What kind of body is that, Jacob, on it?
It's not... It's a combo of some sort. So it has like a Metru middle of chest piece, but then it also has just like kind of a invented torso. It's very elaborate and very detailed,
and it has the silver mask of shadows on it, and it gives it that evil schemy look. Like this is the thing that would experiment on you in a lab or try to kill you.
100%.
Right.
I love how they incorporated like the green, that's just like the green glow that's described as part of it, with the green studs. This looks really cool.
And then going down in the mock, they have it with legs standing on top of the energized protodermis, and it looks very strange to see it with legs.
Yeah, I think the better look is it like emerging from the protodermis,
because the next picture is when it's like more serpentine below the waist, right, where it's just like melding back into the protodermis but elongated, so it can like try to reach out and grab you. And then the last few are when it is like fully looking like a being that could walk around in the Matoran Universe, right? Fully armored, has legs, arms, mask, and it just looks very imposing and like grand, but still kind of agile and fluid is how I would describe it. So just phenomenal all around.
Yeah.
I love this thing.
And I think this is a custom printed mask, which is pretty cool too.
Oh, really? That is sweet.
Yeah, you can definitely see the like divisions here of the 3D model.
Yeah, that is a really well-made mask. Holy cow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's all we have for the communities.
Not quite.
Oh!
I'm going to include my own mock for the community portion of this episode. So you'll see here pretty quickly that I have this beautiful picture of my mock of energized protodermis. So there you go.
Wow. It's just something.
I love it.
Great
Trust
stuff.
me, you'll love it.
The editing room floor will love this.
My floor will not love it.
Yep.
My floor does not have feelings, unlike energized protodermis.
I know, I would like to see you dress head to toe in a silver bodysuit and then pop out of a pile of silver Lego pieces.
You would love to see that? Are you
Love's
some
not
sort-
canon, so
Yeah.
Anyway,
He would really love to see that.
I would really adore it.
Oh. We just killed Greg Varsh. Yep. So, any closing thoughts before we end today's episode?
Oh man, protodermis.
I feel like we already kind of did our closing thoughts earlier.
Any more closing
We
thoughts?
talked about too, like how we didn't actually go too much into it, but it's so crucial for mask making, disc making, like all of the things that go, forward with just everything in Bionicle Universe. And
Yes.
so, like, it's fascinating all the different ways that they choose to use it and implement it.
Yeah, it's a lot to get through, but it's foundational to any part of the story going forward, because you'd be like, what is this protodermis stuff that they're doing with, right? So I think protodermis is fascinating. Energized protodermis I love to death. It's so cool. Antidermis I'm like, neat as well. So
Yeah.
all positives in my opinion.
Yep. Good job, Greg.
Nice. And the rest of the story team presumably.
No, just Greg.
Just Greg. Greg
was
walked in one
only
day.
Greg.
Protodermis, guys.
Guys, it came to me in a dream.
I'm glad we are not filming this.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I've been Jacob.
He has been Jacob.
He all really has been.
Dang, you guys were supposed to say.
And this has been the Barraki Talk Show. Oh,
Oh,
wait. Tune in next time to learn about Kanoka discs.
Which our protodermis is very important for
made of
Kanoka
protodermis.
They
And
are
they have lots
indeed.
of unique powers and are essentially a hard magic system. So tune in more to learn about them.
I cried doing the technical part of this.
Did you actually?
No.
I was going to say you're a very weak-willed
But I
person.
wanted to.
Why?
You'll see when we get to it.
Okay. Goodbye. Good night. So long. Auf Wiedersehen. This brings us to the end of today's podcast. If you enjoyed the discussion, please follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you like to watch instead of listen, you can also find us on YouTube. The Barraki Talk Show is only made possible thanks to viewers like you. Thank you.